Hey guys, this update is a little delayed, so I'll update you on last week and this week and the appointments we had for Kaden. So today's Thursday, yesterday was January 19th, Wednesday, so we had an appointment yesterday and the week before. So the week before on Wednesday was a super full day of appointments. I think we had like 6 different appointments throughout the day. And John thankfully was able to go with me. He got a day off work to go because it was so many appointments crammed into one day, and it was our last fetal echo. And so it was nice for him to be able to be there. So he took the day off work. Our first appointment was at like 9:30 or 10, I think. And the last one was at like 2 or 3, and it was full appointments all through there. So I'll try my best to remember exactly what happened, but we started with meeting briefly with the social worker, which was super nice just to learn more about like the resources available to us, just because we live 3 hours from the hospital and what that looks like and what they can do to kind of help us out here and there, and just like the extra support to know that that's there. And she was super kind, super helpful. So she popped in kind of right before our echo started into the room and just talked with us for a bit. And then we had our echo, and the pediatric cardiologist we're working with, he actually did the echo. And so that kind of got combined into one meeting with him and the echo. And that was our 3rd echo we've had for Kaden. And the good news is, again, nothing new was showing up. There were no new issues. We're still seeing the AV canal defect, so we still know he'll probably need surgery somewhere between 3 and 6 months, open heart surgery to fix that. But at this point, from everything they can tell with him still being inside, it looks stable, and it shouldn't be like a big issue as soon as he gets here. I think I mentioned this before, but he will need to be in the NICU at least for a couple days, most likely, to just monitor, make sure he's getting the oxygen he needs, and eventually get an echo once he's been here for a couple days, just to confirm that what they're seeing inside is the same as what they see once they can just do the echo right on him. But that was good news. And then after the echo, I think we had our ultrasound for the BPP. So BPP is a biophysical profile, and they monitor the baby for things like movement and practice breathing, and that kind of stuff. So in order to leave, like every week now, I'm gonna have to have a BPP, and they'll monitor those things. And in order to leave the hospital, like Kaden has to score an 8 out of 10 or a 10 out of 10. If it's less than that, I'll either be monitored for longer or it's delivery time. So this is just like a test to make sure that he's still doing well, moving, like all that kind of stuff. And so that was our first BPP. And so it was fun for John to get to be there too, just so he knows what I'm talking about with these like different new tests that I'll be doing every week. And we got to like see him do practice breathing for the first time, which was really cool. I hadn't seen that before, not to say he hadn't necessarily been doing it, but they just was never pointed out to us or like shown to us in that way, so that was fun. The practice breathing actually took us the longest during that BPP. Everything else he like passed with flying colors, and they have like 30 minutes to see all the things they need to see before like the test is over and they score it. And so it was like at 25 minutes that he finally did the practice breathing. So he made us wait a long time. So he ended up passing that. There's like 8 points for the first part, and then there's the non-stress test, which we do later for like the last 2 points. So he got 8 out of 8 on that one, which is good. It means he's doing well. And then after that, we had a little bit of a break for lunch technically, but the social worker was able to work it out, so we were able to go tour the whole like labor and delivery, NICU, like that whole area of the hospital. And so that was really helpful just because we hadn't seen that part of the hospital at all. And just to like have a better picture of what the NICU is like and what to expect, and learn more about like what options are available during labor and just all that kind of stuff. So that was really great. And again, it was great that John was there to be able to also see it, and just even so he knows where we're going to be going when we head to the hospital for birth. And so then after that, we had an appointment with my OB. And that was quick, just normal stuff. My glucose levels were still looking good, so still just told to keep monitoring those. And then we had the non-stress test. So that's where they monitor Caden's heart rate for like 20 minutes as well as mine. And they look for accelerations in his heart, which means that like that's a good thing. They want his heart rate to kind of go up, stay up for a bit, and then go back to normal a couple times throughout the 20 minutes. What they don't want to see is decelerations, like his heart rate plummeting down at any point. And I think they can also check for contractions, which I haven't had any yet, but that can all be checked out during the non-stress test. So we did that, and it was fun again for John to get to see what that looks like. He didn't quite get the number of accelerations they were looking for during the first 20 minutes, so they monitor us for like another 10 minutes or so, and then he passed fine. So that was good. So I think technically he passed his BPP with 10 out of 10. So that was really good. My OB did come back in at the end of that to let me know that the cord flow. So during the BPP, they also check the cord flow, which is one thing that we've had a little bit of trouble with Caden, and the umbilical cord flow. And now they're also checking the flow in the brain as well at this point. And so both of those were still not great. They're still forward flow, so we're not into that like level 2 yet, but they're, they call it elevated, but it's really like that, like reduced flow, I think. Like it's not as strong as it should be. So that was still an issue. And because that's still an issue, they've decided that they want me to do 2 non-stress tests every week instead of 1. So right now I'm going to Burlington once a week for the BPP and the non-stress test. And so last Wednesday they decided that they want me to start booking a second non-stress test, but they're okay if I get that one done in Potsdam so I don't have to drive all the way to Burlington twice a week, which is super nice. So that didn't start last week, but they last week wanted me to get set up to start this week for that second non-stress test weekly. So that was last week. Full day of appointments, mostly really good news, still having some cord flow issues. But other than that, it's kind of all just looking the same that it has been. Nothing new was popping up, so that was really good. And then yesterday, I went by myself because John was back at work. But it was just the BPP with the non-stress test. So it was technically 2 appointments. BPP, he flew through, except it was actually a growth scan. So it was every 3 weeks we do a growth scan, but it was the same ultrasound. They did the growth scan with the BPP. So the BPP portion of it, he like flew through. He did great, passed 8 out of 8 for that right away, which is really good. He's moving a lot. And he's doing the practice breathing a bunch too, which is good. And then they did the growth scan. And 2 growth scans ago, he was measuring in like the 8th percentile, which is why they then looked at the cord flow. And that's how we got into that whole thing to find out the cord flow wasn't great. And then 3 weeks ago, he had a growth spurt and was in like the 25th percentile or something. And then yesterday he actually measured in like the 50 something percentile for the Vermont growth curve. And came in weighing approximately like 4 pounds, 14 ounces. So almost 5 pounds and in the 50 something percentile for growth. So he's been growing a lot, which is awesome. And despite having like the cord flow issues, like he's still growing. So that's a really good sign. And he's still moving a ton, which is also a really good sign. So past the BPP, growing a lot. Cord flow was elevated again. So both, I think, the brain and the umbilical cord numbers aren't great, but they're not, like, they're still forward flow. So it's still continued just weekly monitoring. Yeah, so not great, but nothing new again, just more of the same. And then I had the non-stress test, and he passed that in the first 20 minutes as well. So, yeah, yesterday was good. And then tomorrow is my first non-stress test here in Potsdam. So I'll have 2 non-stress tests every week, starting this week. So hopefully he keeps doing great with those. Biggest prayer requests right now are just for that cord flow to continue being forward flow. We really don't want it to become like reversed flow, because that means he's gonna have to come pretty quick. So just that the flow continues to be going the right direction, that he continues to grow. My glucose levels the past 2 days have been higher than normal, despite like not really a change in diet. So just that I get that figured out and they don't start continually rising, because that means I'll have to move to probably insulin or something, and I'd rather not have to do that. So prayers that my glucose levels just go back to being good. And then I think just starting to pray over our just labor and delivery, and he'll probably be induced unless he just decides to come super early on his own. And just that, I think one of the things that's stressing, like, is the hardest for me at this point is knowing that there's going to be NICU time and not knowing, like, to what extent. And the idea of, like, me having to go home, or not home probably, but to, like, the Ronald McDonald House or a hotel in the area and leave Caden at the hospital, it just breaks my heart. And my heart just goes out to every mom who's had to do that, because I just can't imagine. But just prayers that Caden doesn't have to be in the NICU for really long, and that he just like blows all the doctors away with how well he passes all of his tests, and that his breathing is good, that his eating is good, and that his heart is stable, and just all of those things, so that when he gets here, he is able to be with us, and I don't have to spend a lot of time separated from him, and like leaving the hospital without him each night and stuff. So those are our biggest prayer requests. Thank you guys for following along, and we'll continue to keep you updated.